Hello everyone, I'm Jane and I'm here for a video that I was waiting to record in a really long time about the Dead by Daylight. The video of today is dedicated to the blindness status effect. It's something that I don't see a lot of people speaking about, also because it's not a really popular effect in the game as killer perks and as strategies evolving around the blindness effect. And in my opinion, maybe it needs some changes. But let's see why I think that in 2022 the blindness status effect it's a bit obnoxious and a bit problematic too, if we want. First of all, what does the blindness status effect do? If you have some doubts about some stuff of the game, we have a really long game manual that explains a lot of the basic things about the game. And you can see a full list of the status effect. Like, for example, one of the most mysterious for a lot of people is the incapacitated status effect. And you can see it here what it does. But we are speaking about blindness, and it's kind of simple to understand what it does. Carter's aura detection is impaired. This is a negative status effect mainly for Survivor. So, how does it work? If you are not running aura reading perks, actually the blindness status has effect against two basic things that are basic information for survivors, especially in solo queue. Pay attention to solo queue, because it's the whole reason why I think that this effect is problematic in 2022. Especially considering that the developers showed attention to this mode of playing, and if we want to improve the experience, I think that looking at what's most problematic for solo queue, I think it's a good way to improve the experience of who choose to play without a survivor friend all the time. So, two basic informations are actually hidden to solo queue players when the blindness status effect is on. The first one is when your teammates are actually hooked. When you're playing the game, you can see if one of your teammates is actually hooked because they were caught by the killer. You can see the aura of them from a distance. You see this red aura, and you know where to go for their nuke, to go to save them. And this is a really important information, for example. If you're playing and you are the one hooked in that moment, you can see the aura your teammates have, yellow aura, and to understand if they are coming for you or not. Now, this is something that can be particularly useful if you are playing in not a full survivor friend. So, for example, you're playing only with your best friend, and you can tell them, dude, my friend, the other survivors are working on gen. One of them is chased. Like, if you stop working on your gen and you come for the save, this is your chance. So, it's a bit more useful, like for survival friends who are not in a full team. So if you're like there are two, or it's a survival friend with 3 person, or if it's a survival friend with 2 person, this kind of information is still useful. And the third thing that actually is countered as basic game is when someone is lagged, because when a survivor goes down, you can see the red aura of this survivor from a distance. So it's a way to avoid this person like actually dying alone in a corner of the map or in a point of the map that you don't know, and to allow you to go rescue them and put them back in the game if the killer chooses to actually not hook them. So, if we start from here, you can see how these informations are particularly useful if you are not playing survivor friend, because if you are in a full team and you can speak to each other, actually all of this stuff, or a lot of this stuff, is not so problematic, because for example, you are hooked in a basement, or you're hooked in a corner of the map close to something that it's really easy to recognize. I don't know, for example, a bus or a crane or the main building. You can simply say, hey, I'm hooked close to the main building, or hey, I'm slugged close to the shack, can you come to rescue me? And in this way, it's really easy for your teammates to rescue you. But if you are not in support with your friend, doing all of this stuff is actually complicated. If you are not able to see their aura, going around the map completely randomly, is a huge waste of time, and you are not even sure to find them. And this is a kind of obnoxious and frustrating, both for the survivors. So the survivor who's lagged or hooked because they are gonna die because their teammates are not able to find them, and for the survivors who want to go for the rescue because you have no idea where they are. And this is a really strong for killers, of course, because you get a huge advantage of that with the loss of time from the survivors, or because someone is gonna die because the team is not able to rescue them. But this is strong because they are not able to communicate, and this is another way to push people playing Survival Friend instead of playing a solo queue. So this situation alone makes you understand how, especially killers who are focused at winning mainly against survival friends, because that's the most challenging group of survivors you can find, because you know that they are communicating to each other, and you need to be optimal against people who have this advantage, because there is a sort of more than a sort of an advantage when you play in survival friend. And why should you bring something that actually creates more problem to a team that are actually struggling at communicating each other and organizing each other because they cannot speak to each other with a voice chat, instead of running something that works in a scenario where the team is also speaking with each other? So this already makes Blindness Status obnoxious to solo queue players, but at the same time unappealing to killers who want to have a chance against the survival friend team. And this is the first point. Second point, it's actually good to counter some perks. Blindness Status was particularly popular before the rework of Object Obsession. The old Object Obsession was a perk that actually allowed survivors to see the horror of the killer when they were outside of their terror radius. This means that actually they knew what the killer was doing for the whole time, and they could organize each other, especially in Survival Friend, and for the killer it would be really painful to manage the game, because they always know what they are doing, and if they are communicating to each other, playing is actually really hard. And for that reason, a lot of killers who didn't enjoy going against that perk used the blindness add-ons, especially, to counter that kind of situation, to avoid that if there was a survival friend with Object of Obsession, they would be able to know all of your moves without you being able to do something against it. So in that case, Blindness Status was something even necessary for the killers. Now, Object of Obsession has been reworked, thanks God I will say, and you actually see the killer's aura only in two possible situations. The first one is every time a killer has active aura reading perk and is able to see you. So when they are, for example, using Barbecue and Chili, a perk that allows you to see the aura of the survivors every time you are hooking someone, the survivor is able to see you as well. So it's a sort of counterplay to aura reading perks of the killers. And I think it's a lot more interesting in this way. But also you have a side effect that only if you are the obsession, you can see the aura of the killer and the killer can see your aura every 30 seconds. This is kinda cool, but it's every 30 seconds for 3 seconds. This is kinda cool, this can be useful in some cases, but this is still a sort of niche effect, because Every 30 seconds it means that the chase is kind of long. I imagine a scenario where it's more useful. And you are running the killer in a good way. So I don't think that this new effect, even if it can be really useful and it can give an information to the survivor to actually go for a more correct play, I don't think that this effect needs a perk or an add-on for a direct counterplay. Yes, you can still create a really niche combo with Metal of Man. Metal of Man, for who doesn't know it, shows your aura once that you are fully healed after that you get the protection hit, because a lot of people focus only on the first part of the perk, so that after that you get a free protection hit, you have the endurance status effect, and the next this hit is actually ignored by the game, but only after that you got the free protection hits. Now, once that you fully heal after that you got this hit, your aura is shown to the killer when you are farther from than 16 meters from them. This means that if you pair it with object of obsession, you have a sort of old object of obsession. But if they are playing this build, it means that first of all they are working to get free protection hits, and in a lot of scenarios it means wasting a lot of time. That it's a positive thing for the killer. Second point, this effect is deactivated once the survivor goes down. So I still, even if when you make this combo work can be really strong and fun in a certain way for the survivor, because you work it a lot to make it work, I don't think that it completely justifies running a blindness add-on or a blindness perk. Also because this combo is not really popular. And second point, because I repeat all the time that this survivor has wasted to get this effect, it's something positive for the killer, because they are gifting you hits. If you choose to commit on them after that they get these hits, they can even get hooked, and maybe they are not even able to activate this effect. So that's one of the reasons why I think that the object obsession discussion is officially closed, and even people stopped using a lot of their blindness status effect perks and especially add-ons. Because I remember a lot of huntresses, for example, used to run the add-on for the blindness effect. Now, let's try to see what are the main perks that are actually countered by the blindness effect. Because there are a lot of them, but we have to see if these are perks that it does a sense they are actually countered. Because in my opinion, it's not. Because we are gonna see that the blindness status effect actually can give you value against a lot of perks. But are these the perks that need a counterplay? I'm not sure about that. Let's start from Aftercare. Aftercare allows you to see the aura of every survivor that you are rescued from a hook, or rescues you from a hook, or you complete a healing action on, or completes a healing action on you. So, once that you do one of these two things, or they do one of these two things, you can see the aura of each other. And it works for all the team, actually. Unless one of you goes down, if I don't remember. Yeah, all of the efforts of Aftercare are reset when you are hooked by the killer, not going down. Sorry. Again, it can be useful, but first of all, this is something that is particularly useful for solo queue players. So, you don't think at running a blindness add-on because you want to counter Aftercare. Because it's something that helps solo queue players who have to work a lot to make them work this perk. Because you have to rescue, or they have to rescue you, you have to heal in them, or they have to heal you. So already something dangerous happened to one of the two survivors involved in this. And not only that, but after that you are hooked, all the effects are resetted. I think that this hide effect should be removed from aftercare, if we can be honest, because you work a lot, it's a perk useful for solo queue, why having this negative effect. But I repeat, even if you can, even if you make all of this stuff, you can be countered by someone just running an exhaustion add-on, and in this, a blindness add-on. And in this way, this perk that you have to work a lot for, and it's useful only because you are playing solo queue, stop being useful. Alert. Your acute senses are on high alert. When the killer performs a break action, so kicking a pallet, kicking a door, kicking a generator, basically, the killer is revealed to you for 5 seconds. This is another perk that is actually countered. But if they see your aura for 5 seconds after that you break something, is it something that as a killer you feel like can be problematic to you? Like, it's a nice perk, it's not a bad perk, but it's not definitely meta, it's not something that actually makes your game as a killer more complicated. You don't run an again, a blindness add-on or a blindness perk because you are afraid of them running alert. It's a so rare perk to find in a game, even if players who are used to it get some really useful infos that are helpful for their playstyle. But it's not something that you are gonna play around with a perk or with an add-on. You prefer to run a slowdown perk, for example, as a killer a lot of times, or a chasing perk that help you during a chase, or a aura reading perk for yourself. So even in this case, it's not a perk that can be really problematic for you as a killer. Any means necessary. Now has an aura reading effect. It allows you to see the pallets that are dropped by your teammates, so you can go to this to reset this, because actually the original effect was mainly resetting pallets, but now you can see also where the dropped pallets are. This is useful for more reasons. The first reason is obvious. You know where to go to reset a pallet. The second reason is if you are not the one involved in a chase, you know that where the kill or the chase is happening. This is another information that is really useful if you are solo queue. And if you are in Survive Friend, you already know if the killer is going for you, a Survive Friend, a full Survive Friend with communication, of course. You already know if the killer is coming for you or not. So, another time, it's another effort that is more painful for solo queue than to Survive Friend survivors. No, Blast Mine, I think yes, because your teammates can see the yellow aura of the generator affected by Blast Mine. And I mean, you probably are going to get that there is a generator there and you can actually choose to work on it, but this is not even so useful information for the team, unless you look at it as okay, there is someone working on a gen and that gen is in that side of the map. Another information that actually, if you are in a Survive Friend, you already have because of communication, and that blindness status effect doesn't counter, because if you can speak, you don't need to look at it. Blood Pact. This perk has aura reading as well. And it only works if you are not the obsession before anything. And if you or the obsession are injured, you can both see the aura of each other. Another time. This is a perk that gives aura of a teammate. This is a perk that... This is effect at least. Because the other effect can be more fun for other kind of plays that are kinda niche still. It's a rare perk to see in a game. And yeah, if you knowing the position of a team, it is something that you have as basic as a Survive Friend. Bond unlocks the possibility of seeing the aura of your teammates when they are within a 36-meter range. When do you want to run it? When you don't know where your teammates are. When you do it? When do you do it? When you are in solo queue. I don't know, actually, if, I have to be honest, I didn't pay attention, if the blindness status effect works to hide the boon totem aura. And probably yes. And in this case, it can be a good anti-meta perk. But probably it's the only case. Breakdown. This is another perk that is kinda rare. It allows you to see the aura of the killer for 6 seconds after that you are unhooked or you unhook yourself. Is it something that for a killer is so problematic? Probably no. Because knowing the position of the killer after that you got unhooked is useful only to know if the killer is coming for you or not. This is something that usually in Survey Friend you already know. Buckle up is countered for the main reason that you already wouldn't be able to see the aura of the slugged teammate. So, in this case, this perk that is already really niche, like it's probably one of the weakest perks for survivors in the game. In this way, it's even weaker, it's even more useless. And then you could even see the aura of the killer for a duration of 10 seconds after picking up someone else. So, this has to work. For this perk working, they have to slug, and you have to be the one who picks them up. Then, what do we have? Clairvoyance. Clairvoyance actually shows you the aura of Etsy switches, generators, hooks, chest, and hatch within a 64 meter range. It can be interesting as a perk, but I repeat, is it really useful for a killer to hide the auras of Etsy switches, like usually survivors, good survivors who pay attention during endgame, are able to see the bubbles of the Etsy switches and to organize each other to actually be able to find the Etsy gates. Like, it's not really problematic. Generators, unless it's a indoor map, and even in indoor maps you have some clues to find the generators, you are able to see the lights of the generators really high, so clairvoyance can be nice, but at the same it's especially good for avoiding infringements, but at the same time a really good survivor doesn't really rely on it. So if you're playing against survivors you think that are really good, you don't really aim at hiding the generator's aura, unless it's an indoor map. Hooks, I mean, when does a survivor needs to find out when you have to unhook someone? Chest, the chest, okay, they can find some useful items like a medikit, for example, or like a toolbox, or like a flashlight, but when a survivor goes for a chest, it means that they are not working on a gen. I don't think that perks that counter the chest are basically a good choice for a killer, especially like tokens and stuff like that. Let survivors open their chest, because it's a waste of time, and I say it as someone who loves opening chests, and you know it if you watch my streams. And the hatch. Maybe to hide the hatch can be a thing, but I mean, how many people run Clairvoyance? It's not a so popular perk. It's another time a perk that mainly works, or an effect, sorry, that mainly works to counter a niche perk that probably no one uses. Counterforce will be countered in a certain way. And it's not so popular as well. And as a killer, maybe if you know, but you have to know that they are running counterforce, maybe it can be a good idea to actually run blindness stuff, but only if you're running a totem build. Like, I repeat, another time, something that, in my opinion, doesn't make you play that kind of build. Dark Sense show you the aura of the killer each time a generator is completed. When the last generator is powered, the killer's aura is revealed to you for 10 seconds. This can be something useful if you are the chased one, and it can give you a sort of value during a chase, don't get me wrong. But this is another perk that usually is not used by survivors. Survivors prefer to go for that. That's why an exhaustion add-on or an exhaustion perk is generally more useful for a killer. Then Deja Vu shows the aura of generators, and this is the same thing I said about clairvoyance. The Tenacity shows the aura of generators, chest and totem within 64 meters. And this is used usually by people who don't want to deal with Noed, or who don't want to deal with Ruin Undying. So, especially in solo queue, especially with the people who really hate totem, this is a bit more popular than other perks that we have seen. So, in a certain way, removing their detective hunch can be something interesting for you as a killer. So, let's try to see at least one scenario where blindness can be in favor of the killer, not completely negative for the game. Empathy shows the aura of allies who are injured around all the map. Again, something that usually has a survivor friend. You already know. Guardian. This allows you to see the aura of the killer after that you nuke someone during a game. Is it useful information? Yes, it can be nice, but is it an information that for the killer makes them harder to play the game? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that you are actually scared of someone running Guardian. Kindred, we are gonna go back here later, because we are gonna go back to the thing, the whole point that actually blindness counters more the SWF, the solo queue players than the SWF players. Then here we have Left Behind, The Light, Lucky Break, Metal of Man, No Mither, No One Left Behind, Object of Obsession, we have spoken about it. Open-ended works for the aura reading, so if you counter aura reading, you kinda counter open-ended as well, but it's another perk that is kinda rare. Overcome Pharmacy. Plunderer. This shows the aura of the chest. Again, if people go to open chest, I don't think it's really problematic for you, especially now that the keys have been reworked and don't allow to the whole team to escape from the hatch and kinda robbing the killer of a win, of a one game. So, even if they find a key for themselves, and they find a key to escape in a game that the killer probably already won or already lost. Because if they escape when all the generators are completed, and the other players are out of the game because they escaped, you have already lost your game. So, if they escape from the key, with a key, it doesn't change a lot to you. Instead, if you have already killed the 3 other players or other players, and the last person has the hatch, because now the hatch spawns only to the last survivor in the game, and you have already closed the hatch, you kind of still have won your game, because it's most likely a 3k, and 3k is a one game. Red herring is kinda countered, but this is so laughable that I wouldn't even spend a second on it, but actually, if you work to make a red herring war go on, you actually see the aura of the generator you want to make blow up with red herring with a yellow aura. So if you are in blindness status, you wouldn't see that yellow aura. Baby, renewal doesn't have that effect. Repressed alliance. I think it will be countered because you see a white gen. I'm not so sure though. But maybe yes, because it's a white aura, and in that case, teammates wouldn't be able, and yourself wouldn't be able to see this white gen for 45 seconds. Rookie Spirit, I think that it shows the generators, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, exactly. You see the horror of regressing generators. After that, you complete the free skill check. Again, in Survive Friend, you already have these informations. Even in solo queue, you don't really need this perk. It can be nice, don't get me wrong, but in solo queue, you don't really see that. Situational Awareness. This would, if blindness is on, wouldn't allow you to see a generator that a survivor with this perk is working on. The aura of the generator you are currently repairing is revealed to all the other survivors located within 32 meters. If the killer downs a survivor while you are repairing a generator, you see the aura of all the other survivors for 10 seconds. This is a perk that is kinda useful for solo queue players. Because, again, you see if they are working on a gen, and they see your gen, the gen you're working on. In Survive Friend, you already know all this stuff. Then what do we have here? Technician, Tenacity, this is not happening, Unbreakable, Up the Hunt, Urban Evasion, Vigil, Visionary is another perk that shows the generator aura, we already spoken about it. Wake Up shows after the exit gates switches aura, and I have already spoken about it. Windows Opportunity and Kindred. There is another perk that actually is countered, but left behind that shows the aura of the hatch when you are, of course, the last player in the game. Another perk that actually is not really used, and I don't think it's really problematic for you as a killer, because if they are in a hatch situation, you have already probably won the game. You don't work to run something that counters a situation like that, like you don't really care. I think that it's more important for you if you are that kind of player to run, for example, Whispers. Like with Whispers, you know where the last survivor is, and after that you close the hatch, you can hear them. You can hear and understand where they are. Q perks are more problematic around the blindness status effect. Let's start from Windows Opportunity. Windows Opportunity shows the auras of pallets, breakable walls, and vault in a radius of a 32 meter range. This is really good. It's in my main build actually. What does it mean? It means that you are able to understand how to link tiles and what's the next tile you should reach in a more optimal way. It's usually considered a perk for newbies, but it's not only that. It allows you to, especially if you are the first person chased in the game, to have a plan while you are having a chase. Like, you're around a pallet loop, you can see where you should go next, or how to link that pallet to a window, how to link a window to another pallet and to another window as well. Like, it's a nice perk that allows you to have a plan during a chase. And it's also a really useful perk for solo queue. Why? Because if you're in solo queue, you don't know how your teammates are looping and what the resources they are using. And this changes in almost every game, because not every player play at the same way. There are the players who are more patient at using resources, and there are players who use the pallet, the pre-dropping this, and at the first situation, and they can create some dead zones. You don't know it because you are not speaking with them. When you play in Survive with Friend, especially if you are a Survive friend who plays this game kinda seriously, you call for all these things. Shack pallet is gone. The jungle gym pallet close to the main building is gone. The pallet of the bus is gone. The pallet at the corner of the map, close to the generator we already completed, for example, is gone. You know all of this kind of stuff. So, in your head, you can collect all these informations and avoid in these areas. Okay, they told me that the pallet of the shack is gone. I'm gonna avoid going to the shack unless there is, I don't know, other pallets close to the shack window that you can link with the shack window, or I don't know, there is another tile that is close to this. But these are usually things that your teammates, especially really good survival friend, the people, killers mainly, think about, they have to play around, call during their games. It doesn't happen every game, because I think that the reality of the survival friend is a bit overestimated. A lot of times it's just people messing around with each other and stuff. But, you know, I don't think that windows of opportunity, like in my case, it gives me a huge value. In a lot of games, I wouldn't be able to loop as well as I did without windows of opportunity. By saying this, I'm actually saying, okay, if you run a blindness, it can create me some problems. But at the same time, I don't think that a perk like Windows should be countered, because, I repeat, it's something that, if I'm in a survival friend, I already feel like I need it less. The other perk that is more problematic, that is actually countered, is Kindred. Why? Because personally I feel like Kindred should be base kit. How does Kindred work? Unlocks potential in one's aura reading ability. While you are on the hook, all survivors' auras are revealed to all the other survivors. If the killer is within a 60-meter range, the killer's aura is revealed to all other survivors. While a survivor other than you is on the hook, all other survivors' auras are revealed to you. If the killer is within a 60-meter range of the hooked survivor, the killer's aura is revealed to you. This stuff is the perfect solo queue balance spent perk. I should run it probably, but you know, I don't want to feel forced to running a perk only because I'm playing a mod, so I kinda risk what it happens. But this perk is actually the perk that fixes a lot of problems between solo queue and survival friend. And this is possible only thanks to aura reading. It's the perk that allows you to take a choice about going yourself for a nuke or not, saving you time that you would invest on a generator, or saving time for your teammates as well, and saving a life, most likely. And at the same time, it allows you to not die with your first hook, or to not go to second phase. That it's something that it can happen in solo queue, because everyone commits their gen, because they don't know if someone else is going for the save, and this creates a situation where you actually can die because they didn't know what was going on. Kindred, in my opinion, should... we can speak about the aura reading part of the killer, but it should be a basic information for solo queue survival. Can it buff survival friend? Of course, if you give something that is base kit, it buff every player. But it's something that a survival friend doesn't really feel the difference about, because, you know, they already know how to organize each other, if sending someone for the chase, for the Hanuk or not. So, if they have the aura reading, it doesn't really make a difference. And this perk is countered by blindness status effect. The most problematic blindness status effect perk, in my personal opinion, and I know it will be a not popular opinion, it's this one. Fearmonger, formerly Mindbreaker. While repairing generators, survivors are afflicted by the blindness and exhausted status effect. What does this mean? That if you're working on a generator, you don't have an aura reading, so all the perks we have spoken about, don't work. This means that Kindred doesn't work as well, and the main situation where Kindred becomes useful is while you're working on a gen, you want to know what your teammates are doing. And I don't agree with something that works like that, because it's a counter to solo queue, and every counter to solo queue is something that, in my opinion, creates more problem than anything. The exhausted effect is always good, because I repeat, the exhausting perks are meta in this game. But blindness is mainly problematic for solo queue players. If we have seen only two perks that actually can be useful to counter with blindness. And the first one was Windows opportunity, that I admitted that probably can be more problematic for me than anything. And the second one was Detective's Hunch, mainly because in this way you can protect maybe your totems a bit better. And if blindness hides the aura of the boon totems as well, these are the only situations where actually blindness effect is kind of effective. But how? Actually, how? Because let's imagine even the case of the boon totems. And what are the stuff that give blindness effect? There are some add-ons, like one of the most popular is this. Hatchets inflict blindness for 60 seconds. But first of all, survey your friend, placing a boon totem. They still know where the boon totem is, because they are gonna call for it. 60 seconds. If it's the the time they are on the hook, and the time they can be even healed by a teammate at that point, or a teammate who maybe even has the aura reading of the moon totem. Like the blindness time is not so problematic for them. To have a serious counter in that sense, and I repeat, they don't have to be a survey friend, because at the end of the day, a survey friend will always counter the blindness status effect. Is this perk? X the third seal. The aura reading is removed for the whole game, actually, in this way. Is it something... repeat, is it something that you will run to counter the boon totems? I don't think so. And And then here we are, and another perk that is problematic and is a counterplay mainly for solo queue survivor is this one, because it hides your aura in unless your teammate, the aura of your slug, unless the teammates are in a range of 60 meters. And I repeat, this is the kind of stuff that makes the experience more painful only for solo queue survivors. We could see at the end of the day how blindness status effect creates more problem for solo queue than survey friend. Also because of this, it's not a really popular effect that people run for their perks or add-ons. If you are a killer who wants to win, like for example as hunters, you don't run the toxin to hide the aura reading. You run babushka and Allcaft. You want faster hatchets and slower cooldown. Faster wind up of the hatchet, not faster hatchet as flame speed. That's another add-on. If you are, I think that the pig has an add-on with blindness. You prefer to go for stuff that work around your, or to making the game slower for them, or that work around your ambush power. So even as add-ons, it's kind of rare to find people who play the blindness add-ons, because like, especially if you feel like you have to win and play against a survey friend, you know that blindness status effect is not gonna affect their game so much, and the only games where you are gonna have value from blindness are the games where they are playing alone, or where they are not communicating with each other. That's the only scenario where this kind of builds are gonna work. And usually the blindness status effect is used for or particular maps, like for example RPD. Good luck at finding a slug or at finding a hook in RPD if you are affected by blindness status effect. That will make it really, really rough. And at finding everything, to be honest, in that map. But imagine a slug or a hook at the teammate. And yeah, usually indoor maps like Larry's or RPD. And like in that scenario, even if it's RPD, maybe the blindness effect will be particularly obnoxious even for survey friend. But that's the only scenario actually, and only because that map is problematic for the game itself and for some reason. But in every other scenario, like I don't see people intentionally running a blindness to counter windows of opportunity or detective hunch, for example. And you usually prefer to play around other stuff. So, how do we solve this stuff about the blindness? I think that it should be an open topic. Something that I don't know if the developers are thinking about it, or probably not, because it's not really popular, because no one really plays around blindness unless they try to go for slugging build, and to make it work you have to hope that they are not speaking with each other, and usually they do it to full slug the whole team and let them die painfully without any possibility to actually come back to the game and dying even in a faster way, like in a more interactive way than getting slugged at the first down. Like I don't think that it's a playstyle that is really fun to have and to face in Dead by Daylight. But usually it's in this kind of scenarios that people play blindness add-ons or blindness blindness perks. And that's a thing. So, how can we make it become more interesting? I'm open to read your feedback. I'm open to even ask to the DbD community to start speaking about it, because I repeat, it's something that at the end of the day creates more problem to solo queue than survey friend, because survey friend, if they communicate, they can perfectly play around it, and a killer prefers to be ready against this kind of players. One of my ideas was like creating a sort of passive facing for the killers, even if it's something that I hate, already for spirit, or something like, I don't know, for example, Freddy, when with an add-on you don't see him really clear till he is in a certain distance, maybe creating something like that. And another idea I got was that it can hide the red stain, probably. This will be a lot stronger than what we already have, and I probably can even regret giving these suggestions. But at the same time, it's not obnoxious only for solo queue players. It can be interesting against more experienced players who will feel the pressure of these add-ons and perks more. For example, if you apply that to the Huntress, the effect of the blindness should be reduced for an add-on, because 60 seconds of not having the red stain or not being able to see the red stain as a singular survivor could be a lot. Like, it's a wall chase. More than a wall chase, so maybe reducing it to 15 seconds will be more fair. But I think that it could be a start to make it more useful for killers in general, like for some niche builds, and not obnoxious only for solo queue players, because I don't think that something like hiding the auras should be a thing now that object obsession has been reworked. I don't see it as really problematic, to be honest, and I think that these perks are mainly useful and mainly used by survivors who actually are playing solo queue. So, I want to read your opinion about this, I want to hear your opinion about this. My personal one is that if something makes the experience worse only for solo queue, and doesn't change at all the experience for survivor friend, has no reasons to stay as it is, and maybe we can make a more useful effect for killer, and something that is not so frustrating to play against as a solo queue survivor, because I repeat, mainly you counter stuff that gives you the few informations that allow you to play solo queue in a way that is not too frustrating, especially if you run Kindred, Bond, or perks that are mainly based about having informations of what your teammates are doing. This is my opinion. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I have some ideas for next videos, but I really cared about speaking about this, because every time I see a fearmonger in my games, and who watches my stream and knows it, I feel like it's a perk that mainly creates a problem to solo queue players, especially if you pair Fearmonger with the new Deadman switch, like to understand what's going on. If they have Kindred, you should leave the gen, but this will mean giving 45 seconds of a blockade generator to the killer. It's not possible. It's not possible, and it's not really fair, in my opinion. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time for another Dead by Daylight Quick Talk.